Imperial County was built as a resort town for the rich.
Here is truly a miracle in the desert, a whole new outlet for the crowded millions in big cities. Here is where you can find the good life in the sun. At the Salton Riviera, there is never a let-up in progress. With an average smog-free temperature of 70 degrees, you can enjoy your life more fully, both mentally and physically, at the Salton Riviera.
Celebrities, including Frank Sinatra, the Beach Boys, and many of Hollywood's elite would flock to Bombay Beach in Imperial County to soak up the sun and warm weather. Golf courses were built, resorts were forming, and water sports were very popular on the Salton Sea, which was the biggest sea in California. Bombay Beach eventually got its own $2 million yacht club, which became the area's hottest haven for young people and celebrities. With Imperial County's tourism exploding, having some of the best weather in the country, and having the big names in Hollywood, the rich, the famous, all flocking to the perfect resort destination, what could go wrong? Well, the success of Imperial County didn't last forever. Imperial County today is nothing what it used to be.
Nearly 1,100 people are homeless here in Imperial County.
Police in the Imperial Valley tell us crime has risen in the last year and a half.
Economic opportunities are fading in California's Imperial Valley.
Most of our younger generation doesn't have that opportunity to come back because there is really no industry here.
Millions have left Imperial County, making it one of California's least populated counties at just 179,000 residents. Imperial County also, by the title of this video, has the highest unemployment rate of any county in the entire United States, averaging a 23.5% unemployment rate. To put this in perspective, almost 1 in 4 people living in Imperial County don't have a job. The current United States unemployment rate is just 3.8%, meaning roughly only 3 to 4 out of every 100 Americans don't have a job. It is hard to imagine that a society would be able to survive when roughly 1 in every 4 people don't contribute. But why? Why is unemployment so high? And how could a county that seemed like a booming tourist town completely collapse in what appears to be an apocalyptic wasteland? Well, this is the story of Imperial County's downfall. As previously mentioned, Imperial County has the largest lake in all of California, which is the Salton Sea. The lake sits in the middle of a desert, a climate that doesn't normally contain a lot of water. But this sea wasn't always here. In the year 1900, an irrigation canal was dug from the Colorado River to the old Alamo River channel. This irrigation canal was built to provide water to Imperial County for farming purposes. The head gates of the canal began receiving a large amount of silt buildup, so cuts were made in the banks of the river to increase the water flow. A wave of floods in 1905, along with the Colorado River, overwhelmed the waterway system, diverting a portion of the river flow into the Salton Basin for 2 years until repairs were made. The water that formed in the Salton Basin, which was previously dry, now encompassed the largest lake in California, spreading 15 by 35 miles wide. But this lake is in the middle of the desert, so wouldn't the lake eventually dry up? Well, this new stream leading towards the Salton Sea provided crucial water needed for farmers in this region. Fast forward to the 1950s and 60s, and the Salton Sea area was growing rapidly with this tourism and proved to be a suitable place for farming. The growth of this region didn't last for long, as in the 1980s, scientists began noticing high levels of contamination from farm runoff polluting the Salton Sea and the nearby rivers. All the runoff from the farms would eventually make its way back into the Salton Sea, carrying different fertilizers, pesticides, and other contaminants along with it. Salinity in the sea started to rise so high that massive herds of fish were being killed, washing up on the popular beaches. The farmers weren't the only ones responsible for the Salton Sea becoming toxic, however. The US military built a top-secret base right next to the Salton Sea in 1942, codenamed Sandy Beach. In 1942, we were in World War II, and the United States was in a hurry to build the first atomic bomb. The top secret site where the bombs were being constructed was in Los Alamos, New Mexico, but the first US atomic bomb were actually dropped either too early or too late and landed in the Salton Sea without even detonating. With all the toxic waste from the bombs and fertilizers making its way to the Salton Sea, by the 1990s, the shores of the lake were littered with close to 200,000 dead fish. As you could probably imagine, the tourism industry of Imperial County completely collapsed. So what does Imperial County look like today? Well, the Salton Sea is drying at a very quick rate. By 1999, farmers began using the water from the nearby rivers more efficiently, limiting the amount of runoff flowing into the Salton Sea. As the water evaporates, leaving behind the toxic waste and dust lying at the bottom of the sea, this will produce potentially disastrous environmental repercussions. With all the dangers of living next to the Salton Sea, it begins to make sense why there aren't many jobs available in Imperial County. However, there is reason to be potentially optimistic about Imperial County's future. Scientific reports indicate that Imperial County and the land surrounding the Salton Sea has an abundance of lithium. Lithium is in very high demand as the world is transitioning to cleaner forms of energy. Lithium is used in all the new batteries for electric cars, cellular devices, and even in hospitals. Agriculture is still the biggest sector of Imperial County's economy, but if lithium mines start growing in the Imperial Valley, the county's unemployment rate may not be so high. We are still a long way from turning Imperial County around. With inflation and skyrocketing prices, more and more Californians in Imperial are becoming homeless. The potential dust clouds from the drying lake could pose major threats for the agriculture community as well. The number of abandoned buildings in Imperial County is growing by the day. The area is looking apocalyptic and has been named California's worst environmental disaster in the history of the state. Still, the last of the residents are trying to make the most of what's left of the county. Different forms of art are becoming increasingly popular. Old abandoned cars and even metals left behind from all the bomb testings have been transformed into abstract art. Another thing that Imperial has going for itself is that it is one of the safest counties in California. The community has a very friendly and quiet vibe to it. Imperial is also trying to bring back any sense of its tourism. There are dune buggy and ATV tours across the Imperial sand dunes. Salvation Mountain has been a popular tourist destination, and there are many museums that share the unique history of how the Salton Sea was formed. Residents are optimistic about Imperial's future, but only time will tell how the future will play out for the county. My last question to you is, would you move here? Anyways, if you learned something, make sure to hit that subscribe button and click this video right here if you want to learn why the coldest town in the world exists.